Well, the ANC NEC is meeting for the first time today since the national elections this year, where it received 40.2% of the vote. The party losing its 30-year electoral majority at the polls, forcing it to enter into a government of national unity and agreements with opposition parties. Now, at a briefing just earlier today, Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula said the party will deliberate on a whole range of matters, including a national dialogue. So let's bring in leadership and public governance expert, Professor Mazwe Majola. It's great to have you with us here in studio. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. And what an important gathering this is going to be for the ANC.
Well, it's very important, yes. And I think the million-dollar question there is what went wrong. That's what they'll be really, they'll have to take stock of what went wrong, what happened. And I think that they'll have to be brutal honest,
yeah,
and call a spade, not a spade, a shovel or a fork. They're the family, you know, it's a family gathering where they must really be brutal honest, having that deep and frank conversation and say what went wrong. And I guess it's easy for them, actually, really, because they don't need to conduct a study or a research, go back and let's hear what people like. They know, they've got the answers. They're sitting there, they've got the answers. They know that people want service delivery. People want ethical leadership. People want to be serviced. People want to be served, to be respected, to be valued. People want actions, not just promises. People don't want corruption. People don't want incompetent leaders. So they know all those things. So it's a matter of why are they not doing it correctly?
Yeah.
You know, are they going to continue to close ranks and protect and defend each other at all costs, even when they are going down? Because really, now is the time when they have to say, we can't do things as we've been doing. What are we going to do to make sure that 2026 we are coming better, 2029 we are coming? But if they are going to continue with the same culture, they're not going to make it. They're going to climb a very, very, difficult mountain.
Right. And yeah, I think it's important for us to take stock of exactly what you're saying, because we've been so busy in the past few weeks of the formation of the government of national unity, governments of provincial unity. Perhaps we have forgotten what a stunning outcome the 29th of May elections were for the ANC, to lose its electoral majority for the first time in 30 years. You're now talking about the importance of taking stock of what went wrong. And of course, that's an incredibly important thing. But it cannot be with the purpose of regaining that majority. Because we know, and studies have told us, and examples around the world have told us, that majority governments, once they slide in this way, they very seldom get back to their former glory.
But that would be their advantage, because it's not insurmountable to come back. But that would be their advantage, that they've seen over the years in many different countries exactly what you're talking about, Michelle. So they've got that advantage in that position to prove the point that for us as ANC, we can still bounce back. You know, but in order for us to bounce back, we've got to change things.
And does the party have that within its DNA, to be self-reflective in an incredibly brutal and honest way, to be an open book to the voting public in a very brutal and honest way? They
don't have it with the culture they have, the processes and the traditions they have. They don't have it. And with those, definitely they're not going to bounce back. If they stick, if they stick to those, you know, things, the way the ANC we've been doing things, they've got to pivot. You know, they've got to understand that leadership evolves and organizations evolves. If you want to bounce back as ANC, we are not going to run the ANC as we've been running it 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years ago. Things have changed. Yeah. You know, you've got to have drastical changes that will actually will disrupt the culture of the organization. You've got to have bold and courageous leadership that will say, look, guys, we can, or comrades, we cannot do things as we've been doing now. We've got to change things.
But Professor Majola, the handling of the Zizi Kodwa issue insofar as him being sworn in as a member of parliament, despite what's unfolding in court and his alleged involvement in corruption, and that was weeks ago. That was weeks ago, and it was after that devastating outcome for the ANC at the polls. Does that show you that this is a party that's taking stock of where we have gone so desperately wrong, for a public that is desperate for accountability on corruption, for an electorate that's desperate to not only be on the agenda for the ANC when it's election time, every 5 years or 2 years after that with the local government election? Does that tell you that that's a party that is able to do what you are saying they should do to try and regain what went wrong?
No, definitely not. That's a classical example, the Zizi Kodwa case, that we have just been, you failed dismally. The writings are on the walls. People want you to change, but also the way you do things. So that is why I'm saying, unfortunately, it's the culture, it's the tradition, the process, is the way they do things, that it's going to be their worst enemy. Because the way they've done things, they're not at a level where, as a leader, as a president, as a secretary general, you can just tell a certain member and say, look, you can't do that. Even though you are an NEC member, you have been voted by branches and members to be here, but unfortunately, with our values and with our culture, we can't allow you to go back to. But still, it was more to say, let Zizi Kodwa be the one in his own volition, be the one who steps down. So, and that is why I'm saying, with the culture, the tradition, they are not going to bounce back unless in this gathering they are able to say, what are we going to change in the way we've been doing things that will be really going to assist us to bounce back. Otherwise, they are not. They're going to go down.
And it brings us to the example of, for example, when the ANC lost the Western Cape to the Democratic Alliance. And it is something that the party has not been able to bounce back from for a number of elections.
You need, I would say for the ANC, you need like a maverick person, a maverick leader.
Is that Cyril Ramaphosa? Can it be Cyril Ramaphosa?
He's not a maverick. However, Cyril Ramaphosa must understand that this is his second and last chance for his legacy, to protect his legacy, that he doesn't have anything to lose. Go out there and just change things. Go out there and change the way you've been doing things. If they recall you, at least it will go down in history like Thabo Mbeki, that you were trying to do things right and the organization recalled you. But if you are going to conform and say, no, but this is how, he will go down in history as an ANC leader who failed dismally and who, as things stand now, who was not able to meet the majority and who only received or garnered 40%. As things stand now, that is the reality for Ramaphosa, And if he wants for the next 5 years, if he really wants to protect his legacy, he's got to change things.
Certainly. So let's talk about what else is on the agenda for this this NEC meeting, excuse me. It's, of course, around the principles of a government of national unity. We've not been here for 30 years. The last time we had a government of national unity was going into 1994. It's an incredibly different climate to 1994. We are a different country. Our challenges are different. And one of the things, one of the questions asked at this briefing by the Secretary General earlier today was, can you have a successful government of national unity when the parties who are part of that agreement differ on certain ideological issues? BEE is one of them, free education, perhaps even NHI. Is that possible, Professor Majola? Can I be in a government of national unity with you when we differ on fundamental things?
Even actually the recent public procurement
Correct.
act, they differ a lot, you know. Unfortunately, ANC does not have any choice. They will have to make sure that this government of national unity...
And this is something the DA will grapple with as well, right?
Yes.
Because they perhaps have a different challenge in how do they convince their electorate that when we have stonewalled and badmouthed the ANC at every turn, that we are now on the same side.
Yes, absolutely. And they will differ on ideology, on leadership styles, on culture, on traditions, on values, on all these things they will differ. However, unfortunately, they will just have to make it work, you know, more especially the ANC. They don't have any choice. As we are saying that in 1994, they had a choice. Madiba invited, they were in a majority, you know. That is why even when others left, after a year or 2 years, the ANC could still continue with it. This time around, the ANC cannot continue, cannot do anything without these parties. So, unfortunately, they will have to make it work and make sure that in whatever differences, they will have, and that is when the strength of Ramaphosa would come in handy, because he's a very good negotiator, he's a very good leader in terms of pulling people together and make sure that that is where it will work. But unfortunately, they will have to grapple with this collaborative, competitive approach, because they have to cooperate, they have to collaborate. While they do that, they are competitors.
Certainly,
you know.
certainly.
So how are you going to handle this collaborative, competitive scenario to work?
And perhaps this is where the importance of something like a national dialogue comes in. What do we stand for as a government of national unity? What are our key priorities as this joint government who are ultimately working for the good of the people?
Yeah. You know, I'm very scared about this national dialogue thing, that if it's handled by government, I wonder if it will ever happen. Or if it happens, it will happen after how long? You know, it would have been, for me, it would have been better if it was left to be convened by civil societies, and then government comes as one of the participants or as a stakeholder, you know. Because in any case, the first person who mooted the idea of the national dialogue, it was Thabo Mbeki, you know, and then obviously Ramaphosa bought into it. But as someone who really had this idea and this vision was Thabo Mbeki, and then so now that it has been passed on to government to be the one who leads and the one who really convenes it. The government being government, as I'm saying that, I wonder if it will take place, and if it does, after how long it will do that.
Yeah, the sooner the better. And of course, we as journalists, as people who are governance experts as yourself, and for the public at large, we wait for those 100 days, right? It's a great gauge because you've been voted into your position, you've got your staff members. These 100 days, what have you achieved? How have you built from your predecessor, taken that forward, and what's the plan for the remainder of the year?
The question for Ramaphosa is that here is the organization that has been dismally rejected or failed by the society. And you look at his cabinet, more especially those ministers who are coming from the ANC, are the same people who have been rejected, you know, by the society. So what is it that he believes in, that he brought back these people?
A few fresh faces.
Very few, very few.
But
obviously.
very few.
Yeah. Of course, yes, in leadership, continuity is very important. Continuity and change is very important. So he could retain few and also bring new, because even the new ones are more on the deputy ministers, those new ones. You know, that is why the departments that are led by other parties, or DA, PAF, you can see energy there, excitement, because these people are bringing new stuff, new thing, because that's what happens in the new leaders bring innovations, they bring new fresh ideas, excitement, energy, even into those departments. So now the proof is on the eating, or the
proof is in the pudding. Indeed.
For the ANC want to say, will they handle the pace? Will they manage to make sure that even themselves they are bringing, because once you have been there for so long, you bring stagnation.
Even when you've been in one portfolio and you're recycled to another portfolio. I'm thinking of Sindon Kunu, who's now in police, previously in water. But your point is well made. Professor Mazwe Majola, great pleasure having you with us here in studio at 405. Professor Majola is a leadership and governance expert. Of course,